How you doing today, class? Leon Newman, Introduction to Communications. I come to speak to you today about global warming. Climate crisis, the possible or beyond our reach. Going green is a common phrase that is now used by everyone and almost anyone. But let's not fool ourselves. This matter should be taken seriously. Our planet as we have known it is under attack, and its defense mechanisms are in on the attack. Mother Earth to humans. You're going to miss me when I'm gone. Oh, and by the way, I plan on taking you with me. How real are the threats? Is there a measurable solution to the depth of this problem? Or are the stories just that? Stories. Mother Earth, we're here for you. Just tell us what you want us to do. The buildup of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere poses one of the biggest threats to begin the 21st century. The combustion of fossil fuel, which makes up 80% of the world's energy supply, and the deforestation of our forests are what is leading us this way. James Hansen states, if humanity wishes to preserve a planet similar to that of which civilization developed, and to which life on Earth is adapted, the paper states COO will need to be reduced from its current parts per minute to the most parts per minute. With America being dependent on the use of oil, gas, and coal to drive us in almost every aspect of life, it is evident we have our work cut out for us. A 2009 U.S. electricity generation by source graph indicates that 44.9% is generated by coal, the single biggest fossil fuel reservoir of carbon. The deforestation contributes to the amount of CO left in the air, which could be more readily absorbed and removed from the air, but our forests are being cut down at an alarming rate also. The biggest driver of deforestation is agriculture. This. Cutting our forests down to produce this. Paper and its likes. Expensive cabinetry. The great, gorgeous, all wooden floor. We must maintain a common balance of the deforestation and the reforestation process of our forests, because this is contributing at an alarming pace to the carbon dioxide exposure in the air that is not being absorbed, which could be absorbed if in fact we maintain such a balance. Al Gore Jr., 45th Vice President of the United States, 1993 to 2001, an environmental activist. The climate of change states that the resources in question are too expensive or polluting, or in the case of clean coal, too imaginary to make a difference in protecting either our national security or the global climate. Robert Bryce of the Institute of Energy Research and a managing editor of the Energy Tribune, The Dangerous Delusion of Energy Independence, argues that it is neither possible nor desirable for the United States to become independent of foreign supplies. Oil, coal, and natural gas released into the atmosphere is the major contributor for the climate crisis, which in effect has Mother Earth at its brink, let alone importing more of what America has in abundance, further pushes America behind and enriches other countries, which has to stop. Wind, solar, and the all too expensive nuclear power here within our borders should be harvested. Our dependency on foreign oil and all it takes to import it from there to here leaves us in a point where we're outsourcing too many jobs that we could in fact keep here and empower our people and build our economy are being outsourced to other foreign countries, and here we have our own problems. Unemployment running rampant. I mean, like, we can get to harvesting such powers for ourselves, making money for ourselves, bettering our economy, pushing forth our own people. I would like to speak to you about those sources in which I just spoke about. Wind power, which is the more expensive of any of the three. As per our government, the EIA, residents now pay 10 cents a kilowatt here in America for electricity. And converting wind power to electricity, as per Denmark, which has the largest use of wind turbines, they now pay 35 cents a kilowatt. It doesn't make a great deal of sense when you start factoring the dollars there. And the conversion process is environmentally destructive. As far as the employment value of building a lot of wind turbines, it has very little when you start to compare that to, harvesting nuclear or solar for that matter. The upside of wind power, generated power, and all that it takes to actually bring that about, I mean, it doesn't weigh heavily in terms of building our economy in a good way when you start comparing it to nuclear or solar for that matter. Then you have nuclear power. Of the three, it is actually less expensive. It emits virtually no carbon dioxide, no sulfur, or mercury either. Even when taking into account full life cycle emissions, including mining uranium, shipping fuel, constructing plants, and managing waste, nuclear carbon dioxide discharges are compatible to the full life cycle emission of wind power and hydropower, and less than solar power. Nuclear power has a great upside and an equally downside in the matter of such past events that still resonate in the mind of many Americans. The 1979 accident at 3 Mile Island plant in Pennsylvania. The 1986 explosion at the Chernobyl plant in the Ukraine, both to be of great concerns. The nuclear radioactivity escaping into the air poses a big concern because it covers so much and so many people can be affected. And that's like one of the biggest downsides of using nuclear power. The disposal of radioactivity material poses another obstacle in itself, but a manageable one. With relatively small amounts at this time and the timetable in which it costs to build a nuclear plant, I would think the biggest concern would be an issue of nuclear material in the wrong hands, mainly terrorists. This poses a threat to the entire world, which from one end of the spectrum to the next is why, though with great attributes, has all parties moving slow. Nuclear power in the 21st century and its usage poses a big threat. I mean, when you take into account, we have Korea, South Korea I think it is, that just wants to launch these kind of missiles. See, when you get nuclear power in the hands of such, it keeps the world on edge. So we don't want just any old body running around here with access to these kind of things like that, because the threat is enormous. Now, for me, solar power is the way to go. Solar power is clean, though a little expensive on the expensive side, but it's like the common calculator that we also use so easily. If there's enough light, a solar power calculator goes. You don't need any battery, all you need is light. Just think about the money that you save in using that solar power calculator. They're also used on emergency signs, call boxes, booyons, even parking lots sometimes use solar power energy to power up the lights in the parking lot. Those other ones aren't as common as using the calculator. When I'm speaking of the emergency road signs or the call boxes or the parking lots that's using it to power what's the name. But the calculator has a wide usage of solar power. And I'm thinking almost like every other one is pretty much using that. You're making a calculator or you go to the store and you see so many of them usage of the solar power because of the convenience of it all. Solar power, energy that is generated by the sun. Through a nuclear reaction, it happens at the center of the sun, which gives off huge amounts of energy all the time. Solar energy is renewable energy, and so as the sun keeps on shining, it keeps releasing energy that can be captured and stored and used to supply electricity. Solar energy hits the earth. Solar energy that hits the earth is 10 times the amount we need on the earth. The use of solar energy has grown rapidly around the world and has provided millions with jobs at every aspect. Its usage and shortage of building of solar panels. Solar energy is a source that I like most of all natural sources. And I want to speak to you a little bit about that. Solar cells that you see on calculators and satellites are also called photovoltaic PV cells, which as the name implies, photo meaning light and voltaic meaning electricity, converting sunlight directly into electricity. Photovoltaic cells are made of special materials called semiconductors, such as silicon, which is currently used more commonly. Basically, when light strikes the cell, a certain portion of it is absorbed within the semiconductor material. This means the energy of the absorbed light is transferred to the semiconductor. The energy knocks electrons loose, allowing them to flow freely. PV cells also all have one or more electric field that acts to force electron freed by light absorption to flow into certain directions. This provides numerous jobs. It's being more readily used. It's the safest of them all because we're just using the sunlight. A couple of panels, and the conversion techniques of its own is cleaner. And I think this is something that should be more considered. As we move again forward in the 21st century, with the global warming being what it is, we need to take into consideration all of these facts. I mean, the know-how is readily available. The knowledge is within reach. The skill needed to pull it off is within the borders of the United States. Our economy needs a jump start. There are too many Americans out of work, and the fix is here. Our next steps are important. The drawbacks are minimum to scale when compared to the outsourcing of jobs or the amount of money in the pockets of the very people who commit terrorist acts on American soil. I think we should all consider the solar power more. This is something that should be looked into more. As I said, it's the cleaner of the three. It's the easier of the three. And it's something that I think we should consider. Thank you.